TikTok, it in general as an app, it's a place where you got to be really careful about what you say.
Man, you wish that people weren't so, like, the only thing you can think of is like, I wish people weren't so dumb. But they're not necessarily just dumb. They just never really been taught anything else.
Things were very different 7 to 8 years ago of what people could say. And things were very different 7 to 8 years ago before that to what people would say normatively.
Everybody always wants to know, like, oh, where do we draw the line? That line is going to move all the time depending on what the topic is.
I have legitimately never heard anyone say anything bad about Joe Rogan.
That supercut of Rogan using the N-word has been out for a long time. It's ironic that it's Black History Month and this suddenly comes out in February.
Nsima, what's the deal with this TikTok thing? I see it's got certain rules set up, and it seems like they're trying to ban or at least curtail some of the things that people say.
Yeah, man. Like TikTok, it in general as an app, it's a place where you got to be really careful about what you say. Because if you say something, the audience has a lot of power, where if they mass report you for any apparent reason, and it could just be, for some people, if they dislike a certain creator, and something the creator says goes viral, but they dislike the person, if they mass report that creator, TikTok will just kick them off the platform and delete their account. I was once on a live and I was just talking about something, and there were a bunch of people that didn't like what I was talking about, mass reported, and I was banned. And you got to be careful, because if that happens repeatedly, TikTok will literally delete your account without letting you know what happened.
That's really interesting, especially with live, because you figure the longer content, you can at least explain some of your side of the story, whatever it is you're talking about in particular, whether it be diet being polarizing or you talking about your thoughts on anything that's been going on for the last 2 years. Yeah, it's interesting that you can get in trouble for that. Something I find really interesting is that censorship has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And in the 50s and 60s, when this country had, I guess it's hard to say like what were the worst racial times, or because we had slavery and so many other things going on, but there was literally like disgusting things going on in this country. And the reports that you would see on TV were from white guys who were buttoned up, who were in a suit and tie. It was black and white, and it was shot and said in a very particular way. So at that time, it wasn't necessarily censorship, but there was no other form of communication that you saw. There's a whole movie that kind of parallels that. It's called Pleasantville.
I haven't heard of it.
I don't know if you guys ever seen it, but there's a scene in the movie. The whole movie is shot, well, I'm going to ruin some of it for you, but the whole movie is shot in black and white. And then there's a scene in the movie where the mother cries and the movie turns into color. And it kind of shows you like it's kind of almost mocking that era, because that era, it was like they only shared this part of America with everybody. Meanwhile, there's all this other shit going on. Yeah. Meanwhile, America is being built, and there were some things that were going on that were great. And there's a lot of shit that was going on that wasn't great, but it wasn't reported on evenly. It was only like, hey, this is so-and-so from, and it was all positive reports. It was all like, but they weren't talking about anything that was happening negative. Now the news is completely flipped, but as it pertains to something like TikTok or something like YouTube, any of these things, this is really an interesting thing, because not everyone used to have a voice. And, Tom Brokaw, or whoever the newscaster was, or whoever's on TV, Oprah Winfrey, they like have earned a spot somehow, through years of working towards it. They earned a spot, they earned a slot on like TV, right? And TV has its own rules. You can't cuss, and there's certain things to that. But now anyone that just has access to Wi-Fi has a voice. And so should there be some censorship? I would say how can you not have some censorship? Like, I shouldn't be able to say something, so that you're going to go and harm somebody, or you're going to go harm a school, or like,
yeah, that's illegal. Like,
right,
that's quite literally illegal.
It's illegal, right? But then like where, I know it gets to be kind of stupid, because it's like, where do we draw the line? But I can't say anything discriminatory towards someone's sexuality. I can't say something that discriminates against somebody being heavier or somebody being skinnier or somebody being a certain ethnicity. Or when you think about when we were kids, like a lot of this was fair play, like kind of you
Not even, you know what, this is getting into something that has happened recently, because it's not even when we were kids. It's 2022, and quite literally, things were very different 7 to 8 years ago of what people could say. And things were very different 7 to 8 years ago before that to what people would say normatively. For example, man, you're gay. Like, that was a joke kids would make in elementary school, right? And obviously nowadays we're just like, we know, okay, you know what? That's actually not maybe an okay thing to totally say, because, you know, it can be offensive, but that was totally normal for people to say. Everybody was running around saying that as a joke, right? Now it's not. But we can understand that back then, contextually, no one had an issue with it. The society didn't have an issue with it. Now things are different, but like, we'll talk about what's going on TikTok.
I mean, I remember this like specifically, like in gym class one time. We were all lined up to like do these like jumps, and this one kid jumped differently than everybody. And everyone's like, "Yo, you're," you know, just like stuff like that. But yes, exactly. But
I missed it.
But
Want me to do it again?
Sure.
Want me to do it again?
you're pretty good at that.
I'm kind of good at it.
The fun thing about it was that we were all friends and we all just like laughed about it. It wasn't a huge deal. We weren't trying to. You know, we weren't trying to hurt anybody. Some of this stuff that's been brought up, like with The Rock talking about Joe Rogan.
And The Rock saying tranny.
Yeah, right. And then The Rock kind of backpedaling against what he said about Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan has that like thing where he says N-word. They edited together clips of him saying that multiple times. Again, context really does matter. I don't recall that particular thing that he did. I don't recall that, so I can't really specify, but I'm imagining that he wasn't trying to hurt anybody.
Dude, absolutely.
I don't think he's I don't think he's trying to like rile people up to get his ass kicked or anything like that. You know what I mean? I don't think that's where that came from. He's a comedian, and he tries to make jokes, and sometimes a joke is going to bomb and not hit right, and sometimes... You know, sometimes jokes, I mean, we joke often about like ethnicity. It's kind of fun. It's kind of funny. We poke jokes at each other. None of us are we're not trying to hurt each other ever. Yeah. We're just completely fucking around with each other. So,
you know, but
it's all really interesting. And when you do it on a platform though, where you can make money, that's where things start to get really interesting. And TikTok, you know, people make money off of TikTok. People make money on YouTube. You know, in something like the WWE, like especially years ago, Vince McMahon owns everything. He owns like your name, you know? And so if you want to do something, like The Rock had to get permission to use the name The Rock, like as he, you know, moved forward. And I don't even know John Cena's situation, but that's his actual name, probably something similar. It's because he makes money off all these action figures. And if he wants to go, my point is, anytime somebody gives you money, they own something of yours. And if they want to control your dialogue or control something else, it actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And if you really are against, if anyone's actually truly against some of these censorships that these companies are doing, while I may not necessarily agree with them, then you would just discontinue being a consumer of those things. But who's going to do that?
And then, I mean, it gets really, really crazy, because I saw this today. But Adele slammed for telling gender neutral award show she loves being a woman. And so I believe she's the one that like sings to ghosts, right? Or is that the other one? I don't know.
Sings what?
She like sings to the dead. I think it was either her or Demi Lovato. I can't remember which one.
I don't remember.
And Adele got.
But what I'm saying is like nobody is safe. Like the second you slip up at something like this, it's like nope, you have a fuck ton of people coming after you. Yeah,
guys, before let's because the TikTok thing is a big deal for health and fitness, what was sent to us this morning. But before we get to that, let's quickly address this Rogan thing, because it's kind of important to understand. Number one, that supercut of Rogan using the N-word has been out for a long time. Let's not be naive to this. people don't like how Rogan has a lot of people on and he has long conversations about topics. He gets more views than the typical news, right? And they don't like that guy having that type of power. It's ironic that it's Black History Month and this suddenly comes out in February. It's ironic. And I can understand some of the outrage because when I hear that word coming out of a white dude's mouth, it kind of sucks, right? So emotionally, it's going to hit Black people emotionally. It's going to hit us emotionally when we just hear it. So there's already a little bit of discomfort there. But context actually is important within that, because every time the guy was using the word, it wasn't he was calling you a. He was using it of like, oh, they said blank. But instead of saying they said the N-word, it's he used the word. Now, he also addressed the Planet of the Apes thing. But again, as much of it was the dumbest joke. Okay, what he said about Planet of the Apes. It was a stupid fucking joke. It really was. But afterwards, contextually, he was still like, he said that it was bad in that specific clip. And then he also said how he had the best time, watching that movie with those people in that community. So this dude isn't fucking racist, but the clip comes out now. It's Black History Month. The other side really doesn't like Rogan having that much power. This shit is, they're trying to make a narrative. They're trying to label him as a racist, and they're probably going to try to find something else in a few months to label him as this and this and this to get the dude canceled. And hopefully people don't totally just buy into it, because that clip looked bad. It really did.
I think Joe Rogan is, he's like a pioneer, I think he's revolutionary in a lot of ways. Like his show, that he started off of like smoking pot and like talking to his friends while he's high and having a good time, has been responsible for communicating a lot of great things to people. It helped increase the activity in jiu-jitsu, which like you might think, oh, well, what's the big deal with that? Well, it's exercise. And people need to exercise. People need to strengthen their body, mind, and spirit. He's done so much for low-carb diets, keto-style diets, longevity. I mean, just the amount of guests that he's had on talking about a lot of the things that we talk about here. They're just spin-offs of stuff we've heard on Joe Rogan many, many times over. And all the other podcasts are just spin-offs of a lot of things that Joe Rogan has really done just a ridiculously amazing job. So I actually think that it's hard to like really figure out who you can look up to these days, but after meeting him and feeling like I know him pretty well, and I know people that are in his inner circle, I have legitimately never heard anyone say anything bad about Joe Rogan. That doesn't mean that he's never done anything bad. I'm just saying I believe that he's a person that I can put some value in towards looking up to, especially when it comes to things like work ethic. And he seems like an amazing family man. Again, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but he's got 4 kids. He's got a wife. He seems like he's got a lot of that stuff figured out, and he seems pretty awesome to me. Yeah,
when people disagree with somebody, when something happens, people want to dogpile without using critical thinking. And especially in this specific situation with how ugly that video is, people really need to think critically. How is this being used to shape my thoughts towards this individual? Because there's certain parts of the media that want you to hate this dude, and they want you to label him as a racist or as what's when you hate trans people, homophobic. But there's a specific one when you hate trans people.
Sure. I'll just say transphobic.
Transphobia. He's been labeled as a transphobe before too, and he's not. It's like people just try to throw that shit at people, and it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
It just sounds so ridiculous to like you hate someone because they're gay. Like you hate it. It makes sense to like disagree with somebody on what they're doing or what their choices are, and it makes sense to say, "Oh man, I could just never see that for me." Or if you think it's odd, right? I mean, it's like, okay, well, maybe it actually is a little bit odd because maybe a lower percentage of people choose that route. So maybe it's not the norm. I don't think you're trying to be. But what doesn't make sense is to like go after or attack or harm or hurt or some of the things we heard from World's Strongest Gay when we had him on the podcast. Him and his husband have had people throw stuff at them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like yell
just
shit
fucked
out
up.
the window. I mean, can you imagine like you're walking down the street with your girlfriend and you're holding her hand and they yell heterosexual, like, you know what I mean? Like,
You fucking hetero?
yeah,
Like,
it just doesn't make like none of that.
no.
It just like that sounds so ridiculous, right? But that's what we're doing when we're kind of being discriminatory towards this like one way of thinking or living your life. I mean, if people are happy, I mean, why? How is it encroaching or infringing upon you?
Yeah, it's not. What I was going to say is like somebody broke it down on Twitter, like a whole timeline of everything about all these things coming one after another. Because you said like, oh, how convenient, it's Black History Month. We're going to put out this like or highlight this N-word reel. Well, all this stuff happened at the perfect time. First, it was like the misinformation or whatever. And then the government all of a sudden wants to shut them down. And then even the first guy, the musician, old guy.
Yeah, who they got?
Something. He has a name.
Neil
Young.
Neil
There you
Young.
go.
That came out
Pieced it together.
at the right time. And he happens to be sponsored by a certain company that has like some vested interest in making sure that like the medicines are still being put into people. And there's just a lot of things where
And
it's
then
like,
India Ari, who I love her music, she before this, she took all her music off because of the supercut of Joe using the N-word. You know? And it's unfortunate.
But what this guy broke down, he was just like, if you're curious how this actually all went down, this is why. And he breaks it down each day, like what's going on and how like different people are attacking him all at once, or not at once, but like at the perfect time.
Yeah.
So it's just like, damn, like he really is making a huge impact if he has like an all out fucking full court press on him right now. It's fucking crazy.
All of us need to go back into our libraries in terms of the things that we've put on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and we need to audit. Because to be perfectly honest, it doesn't matter if you're someone who's well known, you better go check that shit out. But honestly, in the future, if you're not doing stuff on media, right, you still need to be careful about the shit you say, because there's going to be a point where that stuff is going to be looked up for when you're trying to apply for a job, when you're trying to do anything. There's going to be
like a rating, you know, like
exactly.
Black Mirror, right?
Yep.
There's going to be an easier way for people to dig up the shit that you've said or blurbed in the past. Because right after The Rock started flaming Joe Rogan, people found when The Rock said that tranny thing on his Twitter, and it's like, bruh. Contextually back then, it wasn't weird making those jokes, and we get how those jokes are wrong now. But guys, like, even if something's ugly, we got to look at context. Thomas Jefferson or Abraham Lincoln, like those guys, the leaders of the country back then, many of them were slave owners. And although like that is horrible, like that can't even be excused, like, but we need to understand contextually back then, as horrible as slavery was, that was part of the norm of building America.
Well, and do you think that Abraham Lincoln had extra love in his heart for people that were black?
And Abraham Lincoln tried to abolish.
Well,
you know?
Or is it a political matter and he's the president of the United States and he's got to make a decision that he feels is maybe in the best interest of the country, but also in the best interest of himself.
There's that flip side. You're totally right.
I mean, it's who knows how he felt. It's hard to know. I think we just place way too much value in people independently. So whether you're talking about an influencer or influencer, like that's way too strong of a word.
But it's the truth.
But it is the truth. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
A lot of you were an influencer.
I know.
Like, it's sad. Like it sucks to say, but
yeah. Well, and the people that I have the most like influence over, I'm so comfortable with that. The people that are close to me, the people that know me, and so I almost feel like I could go out and say just about anything because of how strong and secure I feel within my own inner circle. But I know that I can't. Don't worry, Andrew. Don't worry. Andrew's like ready to hit the button. Beep. No, I know that I can't. But do you guys know what I mean? Like I feel so comfortable, like with my own family and with some of my own friends, that I know that I can communicate with you guys in whatever way I need to. And then if I do fuck up, just like any one of us, we can go back and say, hey man, I didn't,
We can
fuck
catch
dude,
each
I
other.
didn't mean to say it that way. I wasn't trying to like bum you out. I didn't realize that was such a hot button topic for you or whatever it is, right? You can go back and like communicate further. But I think that the influence that people have over people is too great, but we're going to see it continue to increase because there's so many people out there with hundreds of thousands of millions of followers, and these followers, they get so into the exact words the guy says. But if I'm listening to Thomas DeLauer and I'm getting nutritional information, I'm not overly concerned with how he runs the rest of his life or where he spends his money. If I'm a huge fan of Christian Guzman, I'm not going to be, I'm influenced by him because I love his nutrition style. But now I'm all pissed off because he bought a new car or something like that. You know what I mean? So our value assignment to people, I think, is a little too high.
Yeah.
And the stuff that you can get from people and get kind of out of people, which is kind of a shitty way to word it, but that's the way that you should kind of view it. And if you can't get much more, like I'm not worried about how The Rock lives his life, but I want to follow The Rock shit because it's motivating. Mm-hmm. To me, it's motivating. I find some value in checking out his page and seeing, fuck man, all right, he already trained today or whatever it is. And then maybe I get my butt moving for the day.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned it in the past about like social media and everything will come with like a warning label, like the skull and the bones crossed out and all that stuff. I think, who knows if that'll ever happen, but in that label, it should also say like, what you just said, like you're going to take Thomas DeLauer's info for like this info right here, right now, just because we've had people like in the comment section talk about the podcast and be like, oh my God, I can't believe you guys are drinking water out of a bottle. You guys are killing the environment, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, there's a lot more plastic around us than that water bottle. That water bottle is probably the best thing that you're looking at right now. So it's funny that like, people will find the one thing to be mad at, but it's also like, okay, if you don't like the way we do it, don't do it the way we do it.
Yeah.
Have a fucking mind of your own.
Another thing is people aren't giving individuals the ability to change. Like none of us are the same individual we were 10 years ago or 10 years before
totally,
that.
Yeah.
So it's like if something was done 10 years ago, but this is who I am now, and you bring up something from 10 years ago, it's like, hey, okay, that was a mistake, but I'm not that person anymore, and I know that was wrong. And it's really disgusting how it's like we got to give people the ability to change. If we just cancel people for something they did 12 years ago, what sense does that make? It's like you're not even allowing that person a level of forgiveness. A second thing is we had Daryl Davis on this podcast twice. Daryl Davis is a black man who has disrobed more Ku Klux Klan members than anybody else by the simple act of conversation. Literally having multiple conversations.
Yeah, no fist fights, no jiu-jitsu tournament for it, no guns, no knives.
No, let's talk about why you believe what you believe. And the thing that he learned was these Klan members, many of them grew up in that environment where their mother and their father were Klan members, their cousins were Klan members. Everyone just thought black people were pieces of shit that didn't work and that were lazy. That was the norm. And they had no black people around to reference. So as a child being brought up in that setting, what are you going to believe about black people? Well, these are pieces of shit that don't work, blah, blah, blah. And then when you actually meet one who's reasonable, who's willing to have a conversation, who's willing to actually talk to you about why you believe that and give you examples about what the reason why what you believe is wrong. Oh, wow, black people aren't so bad. Here, take my robe and take my cone hat. Like, come on, dude. See, that is grace right there. That is something that people need to be willing to do. But people nowadays, people don't have that level of fucking grace. People don't have that level of critical thinking and lack of looking at things with emotion that they're not willing to have a conversation with someone who doesn't believe the same things that they believe. And they just want to cancel them.
When I was in Hawaii, they one of the tour guides was talking about how they wouldn't allow their own native tongue to be spoken or taught in school for like a few decades, I believe. I forget, like he was like, I'm not going to even mention why, because it gets into like too many different things. And so I asked him separately, I was like, why did that happen? And his explanation was they the powers that be, the people that were trying to take over the island, they wanted the islanders to appear to be dumb. And so they didn't have literacy. They weren't able to, they still were able to obviously speak their native tongue, but they were not allowing it being taught in school. Instead, they were, they weren't getting the same education either. It wasn't like, oh, you're not allowed to speak that, so you're going to learn to speak English. They weren't getting hardly any education. So, I mean, we've seen acts like this, over many, many years of people doing things like this to try to rule. And so they'll try to say certain things. It's easier if I just say that you're lazy and that, if I throw these things at a particular race or say these things a particular way, then maybe people will think that I'm better and I'm more suited for the job or whatever it is. These are kind of the stupid things that have been going on forever. And hopefully over time, we can start to kind of squeeze some of those things out. And I think that the editing and the auditing of our own language has been useful over the years. I remember being in high school and I saw a fight, and there was a black kid and there was a white guy, right? There was a couple white dudes that like kind of jumped in, so I jumped in and broke a lot of it up. And me and my brother helped, and we knew the black kid, so we were like, let's, a fight is one thing. Hey, if it's one-on-one, then you guys.
Do your thing.
Yeah, you guys got into this mess, you can get each other out of it or whatever, however it works out. Once I saw other people jump in, but like the N-word was used and stuff. And from that day, I was like, I was probably like 15 or 16. I knew better than to use that word anyway, but I was like, you know what? Under no circumstances am I ever going to use that word ever again. There's just like, I saw what it did. I saw the consequences of it, and I didn't like it. And I thought the whole situation was gross. And so maybe for other people, maybe they haven't had that experience. Maybe they've been brought up into being racist or thinking those words are okay. And maybe they just never. So a lot of it is like, man, you wish that people weren't so, like, the only thing you can think of is like, I wish people weren't so dumb. But they're not necessarily just dumb. They just never really been taught anything else. They've been influenced to go in a slightly different direction.
But
No, you're good.
Okay. Things have gotten so weird where people are really we have to overcorrect at some point, because have you guys heard of Aquafina? Not the water, the actress, the Asian American actress.
I haven't, no.
Okay. Aquafina was born in Queens. Okay. She grew up in Queens. And in her area, she was around a lot of black people. Right. So with that being said, growing up around a lot of people, she has certain inflections and tones that are typical to black people. She's got a little bit of hood in her in the way she speaks.
Or just what if someone's really light skinned, really light skinned, and they use that word? Then you're like,
but no, it's not even her. She didn't even use the word. She speaks with she talks kind of like a black person, but it's because of who she was around, right? Now, people are trying to come after her for the way she speaks. And it's not even that she's trying to speak that way. She just grew up around it, right? And it's like, how can y'all really try now canceling somebody for their upbringing? What the fuck is she supposed to do? It's not her fault. And I heard this from this guy Akash Singh from this from I think the Joe Rogan podcast with Akash.
Good for him getting on that show, dude. Holy shit!
And he just had this special. He's fucking hilarious. But he mentioned something that I never really thought about. In America, things are kind of like when people look at America, they typically think black and white, even though there are so many other races around, right? If you grow up around certain people, it's like Akash, for example, he mentioned that, okay, when I was in school and shit, people I had a problem with like white kids and stuff, but I hung around a lot of black kids, and I started being interested in shoes and this, so I started being interested in hip hop culture, and that has come into my speech. And even him, people ask him, "Why are you talking black?" It's like he's not talking black. It's like that's his upbringing. You know what I mean? And it's really weird how people really just try to, I don't know, other people or say, oh, that's my culture. Why are you using my culture like that? Like, yo, this is a fucking melting pot at this point, and we're gonna have Asian people who are talking like black people, and we're gonna have some white people that do the same thing. Like Eminem, he didn't try that shit. He grew up around a lot of black people. Right. So it's just really weird how people are now policing people's inflection and all that shit. That's just the way they're brought up.
I got to send you this dope song from Merce. It's called Dark Skinned White Girl. And it's amazing because he gives two examples. A white girl who grew up around black people. So he says, what did he say? He's like, she's so white to the bone, but you would swear she was black if you spoke on the phone.
Yeah. I know some white girls like that though.
Dude, but it's so funny. And he was like, she'll like roll her eyes, twist her neck, some other shit, blah, blah, blah. But she don't mean no disrespect. But it's so funny. I'll send it to you because that's just what it reminded me of. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, I think that you're going to, take on like whomever you're around a lot of times. And then if you think about like, if you see one of your old buddies that you haven't seen like since high school, well, there may have been like a weird particular way that you talked when you talked with those people. Like maybe you talked in a higher pitched voice or did something silly just because just because you're homies, just because you're friends, you talked in some weird way. And now you find yourself talking that same way. Or if I go back,
code switching. That's the technical term. Code switching.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That I didn't know there's a technical term to it. Yeah. But even if I'm like talking with friends from New York, and I start then a little bit more, the accent will pop out. Or if Andrew's to even say his baby's name, he's going to say it. Andrew could be talking 1,000 miles an hour, and he could be like, I had this sick workout, I was listening to this killer music, I was having such a good time. And if he says his baby's name, boom, it'll instantly have, because he's going to say it lighter. His eyes will probably like you can't undo some of these things that happen. There's certain things that happen. And so I think we just have to recognize all of us have such different experiences with so many different people over the years that if we talk enough, we're going to fuck up. We're going to mess up what we say. And some of my message, in the fitness realm, I'm never trying to hurt anybody. Never, ever trying to hurt anybody. What I am trying to do is to try to assist people with double talking themselves, like where you claim that you want to do one thing and then you consistently talk yourself out of it. And the reason why I want to assist people with that is I find myself doing that a lot. Like I battle myself every day. I'm like, I say this thing, I say one thing, and then I go do another. And I'm like, or if I go to do the thing that I wanted to do, I don't put in the effort I wanted to. And I'm like, damn it, why did I did that? But that was like a 6 out of 10. Like I wanted to be more like an 8 or a 9 for the day. And so that's the kind of, so I might misspeak here and there, and I might say something about, I might say something like, you got to stop being so fat, right? And I'm not trying to isolate. I'm not trying to put people into a category of like, I'm not trying to divide people out. But I think that most people, for the most part, would know what I'm talking about when I say you got to stop being so fat. Yeah. Meaning, let's try to stop some of the noise around the bad habits that you've created that are leading to excess body weight on yourself. I'm not trying to say, oh my God, how funny is this? Look how fat this person's belly is, or whatever. Like, I'm not trying to do anything remotely close to that. So when I speak a certain way or say certain things, I also grew up in a powerlifting community with a bunch of dudes. And that's all we ever talk about is how fat we are. Like, oh my God, you look so fat. Your face is so fucking fat.
And
like,
you were very fat.
Oh yeah. And my face was huge. And the bigger my face got, the stronger I got. So it was all part of the lingo. It was all part of the way we talked.
And you use fat the way, like, because we were talking about it earlier about like, everybody just used the word gay. It was just like, dude, don't be gay, or like that's gay, whatever it was. But it wasn't even necessarily like talking about like a thing being whatever. Being homophobic. Actually not homophobic. What's the fuck? Just being
negative.
Discriminatory.
There you go. Yeah. But so like when you say don't be fat, like you've told me don't be fat when I've like, I don't know, done like a photo shoot or something, and I was like, oh dude, I gotta I got so much things going on. I can't produce it or I can't send it over for a couple days. And you're like, dude, don't be fat. It's like, fuck, you're right. Okay. Like if something is subpar, you're like, that's fat. Like, don't be fat.
Yeah. Don't be subpar.
Yeah.
That's an accumulation of bad habits is the way that I kind of look at it. And maybe, maybe people that are listening right now are like, nah, you're wrong, dude. And that's okay. They can disagree with me. It's fine.
And before we end, let's circle back to TikTok, because there's a misgendering ban. So TikTok will ban dead naming and misgendering transgender people. And then also, the platform had already removed content promoting eating disorders, but will now target content promoting over-exercise or short-term fasting. All right. So for those who don't know what dead naming is if an individual is gay or a lesbian, if somebody on the platform, and they haven't come out, right? If somebody comes out and says you like, and dead names them, I think that's what it is. That's obviously problematic, because you shouldn't put somebody out before that. If the audience, people in the comments, if I'm correct with dead naming, please let me know, because I think that's what it is, but I could be totally wrong right now, but I think that's
Maybe
what
you
it
can
is.
look it up, Andrew.
Yeah, if you could look up dead naming, Andrew, that'd be helpful. And then misgendering people is like, if you identified as female, but you were biologically male, and I call you...
Call a transgender person by their birth name when they have changed their name as part of their gender transition.
God. So if you called what's
Janae.
No, or that or Jenner, who's
Bruce Jenner.
but not
So you just dead named him.
See that?
Yeah.
But what is his name? What is her name now? What is her name now? And guys, I'm not trying to do this to be funny. I'm not trying to do this to be, but you see how like I can make mistakes. I'm not doing this to be funny. Like,
and maybe if you were like 10 years younger, maybe you wouldn't make those mistakes because it might be programmed in a little bit better. You know what I mean? Because you're
Caitlin.
God damn it.
You're closer to it,
And you guys see how frustrating this is? So this is the problem. Without context, everything that I just did, especially with how quick TikTok can be and how contextually things aren't always seen, TikTok could just ban you like that, right? We're learning this new aspect of culture.
Should they be able to?
No, dude. Like, because some people, this is the thing. I don't think people should be banned, but also there are still some people out there who are quite literally mean about this shit. And they're just like, I can't believe these trans people are doing this. Like, you are a man. You're not. Like, it's not that difficult if someone identifies as a female to try and just honor that person's like feelings about themselves and their belief about themselves, and just say she. Don't call somebody that identifies as a female he if they are now she. Don't do that. That's just mean. It's one change, and it's going to take effort on all of our parts, right? It's going to, like, because I just made a whole fuck up right now on the mic, but it wasn't on purpose.
But also, like, understand that people are going to mess up the way we all just did.
Yes.
Don't go insane. Like, we're trying, okay?
Like, some people would immediately say Nsima's transphobic.
Yep.
There are some people who would really be who'd really say some shit like that. But we are learning how to. It's like the integration of people who are trans, because that's a very small part of the population. But the integration of this change of language is something that we're all getting used to, and people still make mistakes, sometimes innocently. You know what I mean? So the idea that people will just be banned for that, and TikTok is quick with that shit. That's wild. And then the fasting thing, it's crazy.
I think it'd be helpful too if we weren't so if we weren't so moved off of equanimity based on a word. You know, I don't know what it's like to be black. I don't know what it's like to be Mexican. I don't know what it's like to be you guys or have been brought up in your shoes. So I don't know how I'd respond to some of these words that can be massively inflammatory. All I can do is like work on myself and work on what I say and work on my reactions to certain words. What I will say is that there's combinations of words or combination of circumstances that can blow anybody off of equanimity. Like, it can, no matter your practice, no matter how much you practice, you could be a monk and still get moved off balance by a certain combination of something someone said, and maybe maybe certain types of people don't have any negative impact, but maybe somebody you're in a relationship with can just totally crush you. I think it's important that we practice and that we work on how much power do we give these words, especially when they're said out of hate. When it's said out of hate, when someone's hating on you and someone's trying to, all they're trying to do is they want you to overreact to it. They want you to go that way. But like I said, I don't know. All I can do is control the words that I see and just have them not have, the same negative impact. I think it is interesting though, again, YouTube is like more direct, like YouTube actually pays you for like your views and stuff. I do think there has to be some type of censorship. There does have to be, can I go on there and talk about how I fasted for 75 days and lost 125 pounds? Like I don't know. Like I'm not saying that I think that you should be able to, and I'm not even saying that I think that you shouldn't be able to. But that sounds like, what if it was like Kim Kardashian saying something like that? Like she's very influential, right? And what if other people saw that and that's how she gained success? That's how she had this beautiful body. The stuff about steroids, people again, I just think, look, if there's going to be money to be exchanged, if you're making money off this thing, then there's going to be someone in control. And when you think about TikTok, I believe TikTok is owned by some like big company, right?
I think so.
Facebook is owned by, some big company, right? But it's not, it's owned by a guy too, right? It's owned by like an individual dude that kind of sounds like he fucked a bunch of people over to get to the top, but that is the American way. And we've seen that happen many times over in this country where people, rise to the top that way. And it's like, or even like a Jeff Bezos, like my son has made comments about Jeff Bezos before. And I'm like, Jake, when do you make the decision to hate on Jeff Bezos? Because he started his family business in his garage, in his household, the same way that mom and I started. So do you not like him like when he made 100 million, when he made 200 million, or was it when he started making billions that you didn't like him anymore? Or it's hard to know. We don't even know anything about half of these people. So I don't know. There's probably not reasons to overthink it, but I do think that once there's a money exchange, that I do think that somebody's always going to be able to censor it. They censor TV all the time. They're not allowed to do certain things or say certain things on there. And the platforms that we have access to that give us a voice, there's going to be censorship on there as well.
Yeah. Everybody always wants to know like, oh, where do we draw the line? Like, you just said like, oh, if I say I fasted for 125 days and I lost weight, like I would say that's going to be over the line. But then, you have guys on TikTok saying they do like insane amounts of tren, and somehow, I don't know if that's still okay.
That's still okay.
So what I was going to say is like, there is a line, but that fucking...
That's because of me. I voted Tren in.
There you go.
Like, yeah.
But that line is going to move all the time depending on what the topic is. So we cannot... So I think we do need the censorship, but there's no way we can blanket statement. Nope, you can't talk about intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you can, as long as you do it the right way. And what's the right way? Well, we have to see it. We don't know.
And when it comes to like homophobic stuff or trans stuff, sometimes like where our minds jump to, I think that especially like years ago, people would think like, if someone's gay, like I don't want them hitting on me or something. It's like don't fucking flatter yourself.
I still know people like that.
Yeah.
I still know people
like that. I don't want some dude grabbing my ass or whatever, right?
I grab both of your asses.
Dude, when I talk about how gay we are, people get so weirded out.
We are very gay. World's Strongest Gay told us that we're very gay.
I mean, I'm sorry,
that's was going off.
One of the best compliments you could ever receive is if a gay dude checks you out, because you're just like, fuck yeah, dude, I got something on point.
I got game.
Yeah.
But then with the transgender stuff, like a lot of times people are thinking about like the restroom, like what do we do like in the bathroom? And you would think that men and women can use a bathroom equally, but it's not a good idea. I mean, the testosterone that men have running through their bodies and the things that we've seen men do to women in the past, it just doesn't, it's probably not appropriate. You know, it's probably inappropriate. So there are certain things, but it's like, hey, look, we're just talking about like one hurdle, you know, and then people are thinking about the sign on the fucking bathroom. And it's how about it just says like restroom, you know what I mean? And maybe it's one person at a time or something. I'm not sure how to solve these problems.
That right there, though, there's that actually is quite a hurdle. There have been multiple stories, and the one that comes to mind right now was a bathhouse setting, right? Where there was a men's side and there's a woman's side. And on the woman's side, there are these women, and they also had a little girl, their daughter, and somebody that identified as a female came in, took the towel off, and was just walking around with their penis out. And the mother, the child saw it. I wish you could find the story and put it in the link, because I don't want people to think I'm just making some shit up. The girl saw it, and the mother complained to the front desk, said, "Hey, okay, there's all these women in here. There's little girls in here, and these little girls are now seeing a penis. They shouldn't have to see a penis, even though this individual, you know, identifies as." So that is a problem that needs to be solved, because that's not okay. And the front desk was like, "There's really nothing we can do about this, because that's how they identify." Like, that is a problem, right? So these are the things that society, like, we're gonna have to figure out in these types of situations, how do we handle this? Because apparently that individual too, you see,
he hung like a horse at least?
But that individual that did that has also had reports of doing that at other places. So this was purposeful, and people are going to take that story and then blanket that across trans people in general. Like most trans people aren't doing that to be egregious. See, like that was quite literally malicious, a malicious use of identifying. And maybe he was trans, she was trans. See, fucked up again. Right. But that shit can't happen. That shit cannot happen.
Again, where do you draw the line? We're
figuring it out.
You can't with that shit. Like, there's good luck.
Yeah, and
holy fuck.
And then sports. I mean, it just you start to bring up all kinds of crazy stuff. Take us on out of here, Andrew.
All right, thank you everybody for checking out today's episode. Please drop us some nice comments down below. Don't hate on each other, please. And please follow the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. Make sure you guys subscribe here. Turn on all the notifications. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where can people find you?
Also, real quick, guys, comment down below about what we've been talking about here. The Joe Rogan situation, all the misgendering thing on TikTok, all of this stuff. This is a very interesting time that we're in. So let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you disagree with us or if you agree with us. And also, I'm like, this is my favorite shirt right now.
Which one is it?
I have one like that. That's kind of like rustic or brownish or something like that.
But it's like longer, you said.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So this is a. I like wearing 2XL shirts because I don't like it when they're too snug. But usually when I wear 2XL shirts, and this is from Viore, they're really wide.
Yeah, it's a really nice shirt without without looking super fancy. You know, like sometimes some of the stuff is like a little fancier. That one's like. I don't know. It's like more modest, but looks good.
It looks good, but like I like it that it fits well. Usually shirts are just really baggy. So, Andrew, how can they get Viore?
Yeah. So you guys got to head over to viore.com. That's VUORI.com/Power Project. And you guys will receive, I think it's 20% off, right? I forget these things. Sorry.
20% off.
It's been a hot minute. You'll receive 20% off your order automatically. No need to put in an extra code. You guys will see a banner across the top saying that you're going to receive 20% off. I'm going to get that.
I'll find it for you.
Yeah, please, because I really want that. And then that, what was the sweater, the zip up that you had?
Sweatshirt? This is the Seaside hoodie, I believe. This is the Seaside. It's super comfy.
I'm copying you guys on everything. By the way.
Great hood. And it also, like, there's like this also. Actually, this
actually works really well when it's pretty cold out.
Yeah,
it's something I put like a layer underneath or something, and I'm good to go. Even when it's like 30 degrees.
Yeah, I'm just getting prepped for Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I need to get all kinds. I don't have warm clothes.
Yeah. This is like
got to break out that Kuyu jacket, right?
Yeah. I outgrew it.
That's right.
Yeah.
There we go.
Stephanie's wearing it now, but yeah, links to Viore down in the description because I know it's kind of hard to spell and find, but so check the description and the podcast show notes.
All right, guys. Nsima Inyang on YouTube, at Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark.
I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.